Brenda should have been excited and full of expectations as she prepared to embark on a new phase of her life, moving to another country. However, her heart was heavy, and an inexplicable sadness overwhelmed her. It was at this moment of doubt that someone grabbed her by the arm and said, "You shouldn't go." Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Brenda adjusted the strap of her bag on her shoulder, feeling the familiar weight of the years and memories she carried with her. The airport buzzed with activity around her, a symphony of voices, hurried footsteps, and the distant rumble of airplane engines. She watched the people passing by, each with their own story, their own destination. For a moment, she felt small and insignificant in that constant flow of lives in motion. Her thoughts wandered to Henry, as they had so many times before. Henry, her best friend since forever. They grew up together in a small town inland, where the cobblestone streets told stories of past generations, and the church bell marked the rhythm of everyday life. Brenda smiled as she recalled the endless summers of her childhood, she and Henry running barefoot through the tall grass in the fields behind their homes, catching fireflies in glass jars, and inventing fantastic worlds under the starry sky. They were inseparable, soulmates in every sense, except one. As they grew up, the townspeople began to make comments, insinuations about their relationship. "You make such a beautiful couple," said the ladies at the Sunday market. "When's the wedding?" joked their schoolmates. Brenda and Henry always laughed, vehemently denying it. "We're like siblings," they replied in unison, exchanging knowing glances that concealed a more complex truth. In their teenage years, when they started having their first dates with other people, something subtly changed between them. Brenda vividly remembered the night Henry told her about his first kiss with the new girl at school. She felt a pang in her chest, a tightness she couldn't explain. She feigned enthusiasm, but that night she cried softly into her pillow, confused by the intensity of her feelings. Henry, in turn, experienced something similar when Brenda started dating the captain of the basketball team. He saw her holding hands with the guy in the school hallways and felt a knot in his stomach, a mix of jealousy and sadness that scared him. But they both kept these feelings to themselves, fearful of risking the friendship that was the foundation of their lives. Years passed and life took them down different paths. At 23, Brenda received an irresistible job offer in a big city. It was the opportunity she had always dreamed of. Henry encouraged her to go, swallowing his fear of losing her. On the day of her departure, they hugged for a long time on the train station platform, unspoken words hanging in the air between them. Distance and time came between them, but never completely. Every 5 years, Brenda returned to her hometown for the big annual celebration, a tradition she kept alive with her mother. These gatherings became milestones in their lives, moments of reconnection and reflection. At the first reunion, Henry was radiant, about to open his own business with his fiancée. Brenda felt a mix of joy for her friend's success and a twinge of regret for a future that never came to be. 5 years later, the roles were reversed. Brenda was 7 months pregnant, married to a doctor she had met in the big city. Henry hugged her tightly, whispering words of congratulations while his heart tightened. The third meeting found them in moments of fragility. Both had recently ended relationships, their wounds still fresh. They spent hours talking on the porch of Brenda's mother's house, sharing sorrows and comforting each other as they had in the old days. That night there was a moment when their eyes met. But the moment passed, leaving behind only the bittersweet taste of what if. It seemed as if the universe conspired to keep them misaligned, like gears that never fit perfectly. There was always an obstacle, a commitment, a reason not to take the next step. And so the years went by, accumulating like the autumn leaves in the childhood yard they had shared. The death of Brenda's mother marked a turning point. Without that strong bond with the city, she stopped making regular visits. Life took its course, with its joys and sorrows, achievements and defeats. Henry got married, had children, and became a widower. Brenda got divorced, focused on her career, and watched her own child grow up and leave to build a life in another country. 20 years had passed since the last time she had set foot in that city. Brenda returned to sell her mother's house, definitively closing a chapter of her life. She did not expect to find Henry. She thought he would have moved away a long time ago. But there he was, with grey streaks at his temples and expression lines around his eyes, but with the same warm smile she knew so well. The reunion was like diving into familiar waters. Henry offered to help with the renovation of the house, and Brenda accepted, grateful for the company and the help. The following 2 weeks were like a dream, a bubble out of time where only the two of them existed. They spent their days between paint cans and tools, laughing at their own mishaps and reminiscing about stories from the past. Henry still knew exactly how to make Brenda laugh until she was out of breath, and she still had the gift of calming him with just a gentle touch on the arm. The nights were spent on the porch drinking cold beer and talking under the starry sky. They spoke about their lives, their fulfilled dreams, and those left along the way. There was an intimacy between them that time hadn't managed to erase, a connection that went beyond words. It was on one of those nights, with the gentle breeze caressing their faces, that Brenda told Henry about her plans to move to another country. Her son had invited her to live with him, and she felt it was time for a change. "It's like I'm about to start a new book," she said, her eyes shining with the prospect of a new adventure. Henry felt as if the ground had been pulled from under his feet. After all these years, when it finally seemed the timing was right, when they could explore the feelings that had always existed between them, she was leaving again. He wanted to protest, declare his love, ask her to stay. But the words stuck in his throat. Who was he to prevent her from seeking her happiness? The days that followed were bittersweet. They kept working on the house, but there was a melancholy in the air, a sense of imminent farewell. Henry found himself memorizing every detail of Brenda's face, the sound of her laughter, the way she wrinkled her nose when she concentrated. He knew these memories would have to last a lifetime. On the eve of Brenda's departure, they sat on the porch one last time. The silence between them was filled with unspoken words, with unexplored possibilities. Henry gathered all his courage and began, "Brenda, But she gently interrupted him, placing her hand over his. "I know, Henry. So do I." Her eyes filled with tears. They stayed there, holding hands, silently saying goodbye to a future they never had the chance to live. And now, at the airport, Brenda felt the weight of that farewell. She was about to embark on a new journey, but her heart was divided. Part of her longed for the adventure that awaited her, for the chance to reconnect with her son and explore a new country. But another part, a part she was desperately trying to silence, screamed for her to stay, to give a chance to what could have been with Henry. She looked at the boarding gate, feeling as if she were on the edge of a cliff. Taking this step meant leaving behind not only her hometown, but also the possibility of a we with Henry. It was like closing a book without having read the last chapter, without knowing the end of the story. With a deep sigh, Brenda picked up her suitcase and began to walk toward the gate. Each step felt heavier than the last. Her mind was a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts and emotions. Then she felt it. A touch on her arm, gentle but firm. Familiar. Her heart skipped a beat even before she turned around. "You shouldn't go," Henry said, his eyes pleading. "We haven't written the end of our story yet." Brenda was paralysed, Henry's words echoing in her ears. The buzz of the airport disappeared, and suddenly it was just the two of them, suspended in that crucial moment. "Henry," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "What are you doing here?" He took a step forward, still gently holding her arm. "I couldn't let you leave without saying what I should have said years ago, decades actually." Brenda felt tears forming in her eyes. All the confusion, all the yearning she had tried to bury over the years, resurfaced with full force. "Brenda," Henry continued, his voice trembling slightly, "we've spent our entire lives dancing around each other, always one step out of sync. But now it finally feels like we are in the same rhythm. I love you. I think I always have. And I can't let you go without at least trying." Tears now flowed freely down Brenda's face. She released the handle of her suitcase, which fell to the floor with a dull thud. "Oh, Henry," she murmured, "I love you too. But what if it's too late? What if we've missed our chance?" Henry smiled, that smile that always warmed Brenda's heart. "It's never too late to write a new chapter, or even an entirely new book." He took her hands in his. "I know you were ready for a new adventure, to start a new life. But what if that new life could be here? With me, the two of us, finally giving a chance to what has always existed between us?" Brenda closed her eyes, letting Henry's words surround her. All her life she had been practical, responsible, always putting others first, always doing what was expected of her. But now, for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to listen to her heart. When she opened her eyes again, she saw a life full of possibilities reflected in them. "Yes," she said simply, her voice firm and full of conviction. Henry pulled her into an embrace, and Brenda felt as if she had finally come home after a long journey. There, in each other's arms, they finally allowed themselves to feel everything they had suppressed for so many years. The announcement for Brenda's flight echoed through the speakers, but she barely registered it. Her decision was already made. She would call her son, explain the situation. He would understand. After all, he always said he wanted to see his mother happy. When they finally pulled away from the hug, both were smiling, their faces lit up with joy and the promise of a new beginning. "And now?" Brenda asked, feeling both anxious and elated. Henry took her suitcase in one hand and intertwined the fingers of the other hand with hers. "Now," he said, "we start writing our story, together." And so Brenda and Henry set off together, finally in sync, ready to write the love story that had always been destined to be theirs. Time, which had long seemed their enemy, was now their ally, offering them the opportunity to live each moment fully, without rush, savouring every page of this new narrative they were about to create together. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with a number from 1 to 5 to let us know how much you liked the story. Also, watch the video that is currently on your screen. See you soon.